Thank you very much. I have to take this in English because I haven't the superpower of talking Finnish. So I will try to go by IoT and the connected car. First of all, I will speak to you about some trends. You all know that we have some mega trends. It's the globalization of everything. So if I have a service, I could actually easily distribute this globally. That's a big trend. Another trend, and that's actually talking towards that big trend, is the urbanization. So there's quite a lot of echo. Could you fix that? I don't know. Do you hear me in echo style? Yeah. All right. Okay. The other thing is urbanization. We tend to go to bigger cities like Helsinki. Going from maybe the north of Finland, going down to Helsinki. That's another trend. The third big trend is the shared economy. And as you have had these kind of events before, you have probably talked about that trend as well. Within IoT, really on top of the hype curve, there's also a lot of driving forces. But is it some magic driving forces around IoT? No, I should claim it's not. It's the same type of driving forces that we had in the internet in the early days. Just give a few examples. Think about internet and banking. How used the banks the internet? Well, it's rather easy because they are thinking like all big enterprises are. If I could reduce the cost, I have a higher profit. So that's the number one driving force. It's being more efficient and pushing down cost. So the bank thought, now I have a new tool called internet. What could I do with that? Well, if you look in the bank's financial papers, you will see that the biggest cost they have is actually bank offices, and then people working in bank offices. So they used internet rather smart. They said, let's move into your homes instead. So they used the internet in connecting your home, EI, turning your home into a bank office. And they actually also swapped their personnel to you. Because the main big thing was that all the bank clerks, actually the big thing was that they took your invoices and put them into the system. Banks used the internet for you to do the same thing, but of course then you have the second thing. If I'm using internet for reducing costs, it gives me also possibilities to actually increase number of services, and that was also the case of banks. You had the possibility to actually buy shares, or you could actually apply for a loan, and all these kind of new services. All these trends are the same in IoT. If I could connect, say, a washing machine in order to reduce the cost for service during the warranty period, I will do this if I have a good case. Then if it's connected, of course, I could have new services from this. So it's actually this exact same trends as we see in internet early days in IoT. The big difference is that I could connect more things to less cost. Then the third thing, and that's also very interesting, the thing that you don't think about. I had a very nice event in Barcelona a couple of years back, and I were very lucky because I went to one of the museums in Barcelona. And then I met Mark Zuckerberg. It must have been his biggest day in his life and career when he met me, or maybe not. However, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg thought that Facebook should be Telia company's biggest support channel. How we interact in a vast majority with our customers. I don't think he thought about that when he started Facebook. I think he thought about students that actually were connected in between different universities. So the third thing is the thing you didn't really understand today, the creative thing. The Nordic and Baltic are a wonderful market. We are leading the IoT market globally. And why is this? Well, from my side, it's actually rather easy. We are the countries of Nokia, Sonera, Ericsson, Telia, the big telco industries, the mega handset makers of the world. So we have a very good experience in both internet, because we built the infrastructure for internet very early on, and also using mobile. So that gives a playground for IoT. That's connectivity in internet and using mobility for that. The second thing is that we have a very good combination of smaller companies working with bigger ones. We are the country of Skype, Spotify, so on. So the Nordic market is culture-wise very good in working big companies and small companies together. The third thing, and normally we as an operator don't like the regulatory push, but it's clearly from political instinct, they push that we should connect all our electricity meters very early on. It could be that we connect all our cars in order to, if you have a collision, you will actually get instant message to 112. It could also be in the municipality. So if the municipality of Helsinki says that, okay, dear bus company, if you are going to bring the kids to the school, you better have an alcohol meter within the bus. So there's a combination of these three, good technology backgrounds, good culture when it comes to smaller and bigger companies, and the third one is the regulatory push. So that's why we are leading, and that's actually globally, we are leading the IoT space. There's a lot of different growth areas, and you could divide them. It's rather fragmented. It's growing all over the place. Short term, we see the automotive is growing the most. Long term, you will have all the consumer devices connected. We have something we call people, and within people, you also have healthcare. And you have another thing within people, and that's the track and trace. And we did a survey, and that's rather interesting. So you need to guess now. If you're going to track and trace, and you could choose from track and trace your car, your husband and wife, your kids, or the dog. So what do you think, when we asked, what do you think people are prepared to pay for? Anyone? The kids, yes. I thought so. I really thought so. I hoped it were the kids. It's not actually the case. We seem to value dogs more than kids. There is 3 times higher rate on tracking dogs than kids. So it's a bit strange, but I have a teenager at home, so I could understand that. I love the dog. So this actually very fragmented. And so were internet back in the days as well. But there is substantial growth within all areas. You may have heard of the billions of billion devices connected, and that's true. But from a business point of view, we are talking roughly 20% in revenue value, increasing year by year. What is then IoT? IoT is actually these 3 parts. It's actually sense and connect, having sensor that collects data. It could be humidity, position, all these kind of things, voltage that change, or a door that opens, so on and so forth. So that's the first thing. Then we need to store everything, and my Finnish is quite bad, but I saw the storage type of thing from Petri. So we need to store this kind of data, and we need to sort the data out, and then we do some high-level analysis of that. But I should claim that these first don't give any value for our customers or enterprises before you enter the last one. Because it's actually when you use the data in order to automate a production or predict things in order to have an automated process, then it gives us value. But it's actually containing these three parts, so you can't take any of these parts out, then you don't have a really good solution. So if you take the middle part out, you actually can't do any prediction. Or you take the first one, you don't have any connectivity. Hence, we are very truly, these first two are in our core, and we should use connectivity, and we should help our enterprises and customers to store and sort data out. But we are mobile operators, and we are selling megabytes, aren't we? Or store megabytes, but that's not what IoT is about. It's actually about, as I said, Celsius or movement or these kind of things. But what happens if you take the normal boardroom, and it could be our boardroom, it could be any enterprise boardroom, you have the chairman of the board and the CEO are pushing very hard for digitalization, IoT, and they push it down in the organization and say, you should go digital. And forget, what is digital? It's really hard with digital, isn't it? But what we are saying is that, well, it's rather easy. You should start step by step. Digital is actually moving into new services, business models, being more efficient in the day-to-day work. What happens if I, working within the company, and say, okay, if I could measure, for instance, position together with temperature, then I get some really good values I could act and automate afterwards. And if I have that kind of findings, what do? Well, I say, okay, we should go for digital. I go to the head of IT, and then I ask the head of IT, I have this really cool idea. We could do some kind of proof of concept within this? What's the answer from the IT guy within the companies? He's probably say, well, come back in 6 months and bring €1 million. That's the normal thing. Hence, we bring these kind of solutions out where you have the most common sensors, so you could actually do your proof of concepting using just position, Celsius, humidity, so on and so forth. But I will speak to you about connected vehicles. Now we will have another question for you. I saw the Tesla picture coming up, and that's one of our reference customers. Why is Tesla so unique, do you think? It's a cool car. I was actually in Norway yesterday, and they say Tesla is nothing, everyone has it. That's not the case in Sweden and Finland, is it? But the unique thing about Tesla, and I will start like this. If you take the most connected Volvo, BMW, Audi, really top of the line from these other vendors, how much data do you think they consume a month? Someone? The really new models? Any guess? Okay, then you have to guess on the next one. It's 3 to 5 megabytes a month. If you take a new Tesla, what do you think that consumes a month? Anyone? More or less? Yes?
3 gigabytes.
3 gigabytes. Yeah, that's really good because it's 1.6 gigabytes. 1.6 gigabytes. So you could take if you go on the website and look on a news magazine of any kind here in Helsinki. So you actually take a glimpse of that. That's equivalent to, maybe you look into an article, then you actually produced 3 megabytes. If you look on an HD movie in 2 hours, then you are in a Tesla space. So it's quite a big difference in data consumption. And why is this then? Well, the big difference with the Tesla compared to all other cars is that they have intelligence built in from the start, in all part of the car. So they have processes within all parts of the car, and that could be software upgraded. So a Tesla gets actually better with age. Tesla, as I see it, is more or less a smartphone on wheels. That's why we mobile operator loves them, because it's our actually next smartphone. So if you have heard about Tesla, they pushed out, I think it was in Monday, a new software that gives the possibility to more features within autonomous driving, which is another big trend. So within the connected car, today you can't buy a car that isn't connected, more or less. But what about the car? If I ask any of you, you will probably have a different view on how you see cars. It could be that, okay, I really need a car because I need to go to the shop, buy groceries, or I need the car to get into the office. If I'm 19 years old, I need the car just to be cool and drive around. Or I need it for going out to my summer house, so on and so forth. So there's a number of different views on a car, and we have asked our customers, what are the biggest pain points? Well, if I'm just using it for taking my family to different places, I don't see a value of the car as such. It's a transportation. I want to have lower cost. If I actually normally go to the ski slopes during winter time, and I have a drive of 2 or 3 hours, I need to have something to keep the kids calm in the back seat. Then I look on these kind of features that give me some cool when I'm driving it. So there's different driving forces around that. If I'm living in the middle of Helsinki, and it could be hard to find a parking lot, then it's good to have a position on the car. Hence, we created a new functionality for the car. And this is just an example, but I will go through the Telia Sense project, because it's really much more than a connected car. It's actually how we use data from different sources. What we did was that we produced a hardware that you connect to the car, and that hardware gives you 3 different things. The first thing is give you Wi-Fi within the car, so I could have the same usability of internet as I have in my home, but I could actually have it in my car as well. That's the first thing. That's no biggie, but I think it's important for some of you. The second thing is that it gives me car control. And car control is actually, if I get any warnings from the dashboard, I could have very little fuel, or I have a service coming up, or I have a position, or I have an alarm, so if someone bumps into my car when it's parked, I get a notification in my app. These kind of features. So that's the car control. First you have the Wi-Fi car control, and the third thing, and that's the really interesting thing, is when we use this data coming out from the car to other enterprises. So if I, as a consumer, say it's okay to use this data, then this data from the car could actually change business models. For instance, we have an insurance company, you have it here in Finland as well, called Folksam, and they use the data, so you get a pay-as-you-drive type of insurance. So dependent on how you drive the car, if you do acceleration, you may or may not be within the speed limitation on the road, you get a discount. So that's the first step. So it gives an incentive for these kind of players to change business model. What Folksam has done is that they have also put in gamification. So when I drive, I have this LED display flashing green, yellow, or red, dependent on how I drive. And after each trip, I could actually see my discount. So that's a part of the gamification. If you take the business case for Folksam, this will decrease the average speed with 2 to 3 kilometers an hour. And the result of this is 15 to 20 less accidents. And just Sweden solely, it will actually help out that we'll reduce the number of lives spent in traffic situation. Roughly 30 lives will be saved, just for this easy IoT application. Then, of course, it could be Bilia. Is Bilia in Finland? Yes? Another question. Bilia is selling cars, but what are they earning money on? Anyone? Service I had? Yes, that's correct. The business case for Bilia is not selling cars, it's giving the car service. So what kind of data do they need? Service inspection data, of course. But it could be that I, as a consumer, gives away data, but they have to give me something in return as well. So they probably will give you this kind of service with the Wi-Fi and car control for free, but it's the same type of thinking as we had in the insurance. I need to have something in return when I leave data. From this, we will build an ecosystem. And why is ecosystem so important? Well, if you take internet or IoT, it's rather stovepiped. But the holy grail is that we could use data in different environments. So we are building an ecosystem around the car to actually be able to swap data in between different players, giving me as a consumer a higher value. The next step of this is, of course, if I could connect my home to the car and to the city or to the hospital and could bridge this kind of data in between. We as an operator are in all these industries, so the holy grail for us is going into that kind of environment, bridging these kind of digital ecosystem in between each other, because then you have the real value of IoT, because then things could happen, as I said, in these 3 steps with automation. And that's really what's all about to be efficient. There is some more things. We have smart public transportation. If you take the car industry, it's a bit special actually, because as we see, and I said in the early stage of my presentation, we have the urbanization as well. So people tend to go into the city, so everyone can't have a connected car. Hence, we need to have very smart public transportation. We need to have the same type of services as we had before. We also see the sharing economy, meaning that my kids, I have a son, he's 20 years old, he don't have a driving license. I said, what happened when I was 18, the day after I had a driving license? They don't care anymore. And why is this? If you think about that, when I was at his age, I bought CDs. I bought this, it cost me 150 Swedish crowns. I was a bit proud when I got from the shop into my CD player, and it was a thing. I owned it. How do they consume music? Spotify. They pay as they go. The same goes for transportation. Why should they have their own cars? Why should they build the value when they could have the sharing economy? The Ubers and the buses and all the other transportation, that's good enough for them. So we need to think about the next generation. They are not thinking in the same type of aspects as we are. Hence, we need to go into smart public transportation. And we are putting a lot of efforts in that as well. I will end my presentation with a film, so let's look on that.
We put connectivity in the hands of man, and the world changed. It took us from the telegraph to the telephone, from fax to SMS, and further on to the internet, social media, and hashtags. Today it's a global movement, empowering billions of people, bringing the world closer by letting people create, explore and invent, share and reach out. In just the same way, the car revolutionized the world. From the T Ford and all the way to the Tesla, cars redefined transportation, and driving changed the game forever. Today, things will change again. We are joining the best of two worlds. We are connecting the car. This is the advent of a new ecosystem and the dawn of new possibilities. Cars as you know them will never be the same again. We gear you up to avoid traffic jams and endless searches for empty parking lots, simplifying car ownership. We'll make sure you're in the driving seat to save cash, time and the environment. And that your family will have a fun and safe road trip. It's a beautiful fusion between great innovations.
Good in commercials, aren't we? Thank you.
Yeah, let's give a big hand. Marco, will you ask some questions?
Yes, Hans. Now, I get the idea that this is ecosystem play and the value is in the data. But how about the privacy? How we get this control to the actual people?
Yeah. Privacy is of utmost importance. I said this before, I will say it again. You as a consumer need to be in the driving seat for data. We tend, and that's also, to be fair, a bit a generation question as well. If you take my daughter, she don't care about privacy. She just, well, I share every data I have. And she says, well, if something happened, I will crush them on social medias. But what I urge you all to do is think about, you have this agreement that you sign on or do not in. Hands up who actually reads all these small letters. Anyone? Yeah, one. Yeah.
Out of 600, not bad.
It's much better than in Norway, actually. Yes. So now I urge you to think about, at least think about, how you could use this kind of data. I think we, as an industry player within mobile internet IoT, has also a big responsibility to actually speak to you, not only with these small letters. We need to explain how we will use that data in a way that you could understand. There is regulatory things pushing us now. So if you have a service, and you should know that, and you end that kind of service, we have a very short time period to actually delete all your data. And that's good for you, consumer. I think we as mobile operator have a very good, I mean, it's actually about privacy and security. Because if you hack into some of the system, you could actually get the data anyhow. So it's both. You need to, from an aspect of building services, you need to have security, but you need to think about privacy. But we, especially we as an operator, being Sonera, we need to think about this very much.
Very true. And that's one of the key points of IoT, that through today when we talk about the IoT use cases and IoT development, the privacy question needs to be asked every single time. How is it handled? How it affects the business model? Will the people actually consent? Will they give the information? Who owns the data? These discussions will be quite critical and vital for any successful IoT solution. Next thing that I was kind of curious, you said that all of the drivers have different expectations of the value.
Yes.
How do you find out? How did we find out? How did we manage to figure out that these are the value points of the solution?
Yeah, and that's also another thing that we learned, I should say the hard way, historically. You really need to dig down into what people are thinking about. So we actually did studies during a number of months, following people on the day-to-day journeys with the car. And we did deep interviews, and we had this kind of, you have seen CSI? That's I tend to look at that sometimes. When
you kind of look like the person from CSI. So.
Yes. When you have this investigation, you have this room where you actually have a mirror, and it's actually, you could see through it from the other side. We have done a number of these kind of things as well. So we actually go deep down. We even had fake advertisements on internet to see if we are thinking right. So people actually wanted to buy these kind of services prior to our launch. Yes.
So testing the customer value and really verifying that you have the right expectations about the customer behavior is also a key part of the IoT solutions.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Then finally, I need to make a kind of internal advertisement or external advertisement on some of the infrastructure capabilities related to this as well. Because you know that, for instance, when we go for the smart public transformation, more advanced cars and things like this, there's always a technology boundary that needs to be addressed at some point. And one of the things where Telia is investing very heavily is the 5G networks and, for instance, now the narrowband IoT solutions.
Yes.
That we are really building the infrastructure stack for the businesses to utilize.
Yeah.
And we actually just yesterday made an announcement here in Finland that we have now done the first tests of narrowband IoT solution in a commercial 4G network. It sounds like a technical thing, and it is a technical thing at the bottom, but the key points of that one is that it actually creates tremendous new value for you when you want to make an IoT solution, much less battery, so brilliant battery times for the solutions and devices, much better coverage, and also you can roam. You can actually get a movable IoT solution based on those technologies. So maybe you want also kind of address some of the other investments that we are making.
Yeah, we are, when it comes to investments, first of all, if we take the connectivity, you have different network standards. And as you say, narrowband IoT is tremendously important, as 5G will be as well. Then it's actually about how we handle that kind of connectivity, because if I'm Tesla, I want to test the connectivity and then I want to distribute this, so we need to have optimized system for this. We also need to have capabilities, as Petri said, on the storage side, and all these kind of things we are doing very big investments in. What we are now entering is an investment area within the verticals. So if I'm, for instance, saying smart public transportation, we need to have all the knowledge about smart public transportation. So we're looking into these kind of more industry-specific analysis, because it's, as I said, it's internet in the second wave. So you can't be all over the place.
Very good. Thank you so much, Hans.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's give a big hand.